As several political parties gear up for their nomination of candidates ahead of the 2023 general elections, the National Executive Committees (NEC) of these parties updates the people with the activities and scheduled timetables for their respective party primaries, including detailed information on the election of delegates, aspirants, and screening process. An important part of the process that has captured the attention of many Nigerians is the exorbitant prices of the nomination forms for the biggest political parties, the All Progressives Congress (APC) and the People's Democratic Party (PDP). On Wednesday, 20th of April 2022, the APC announced that its presidential nomination form would go for a total of 100 million naira, while the governorship forms would be sold for 50 million naira. For the legislative offices category, nomination forms for the Senate goes for 20 million naira, while that of the House of Representatives and the State House of Assembly are pegged at 10 million naira and 2 million naira respectively. This fashion of jacking up the prices of party nomination forms isn't exclusive to the APC. The PDP also announced that its presidential nomination and expression of interest forms would both cost a total of 40 million naira, while the bid for the governorship would go for 21 million naira per candidate. For the parliamentary positions, aspirants will pick up the forms for the Senate at the cost of 3.5 million naira, the House of Representatives at 2.5 million naira, and the State House of Assembly at 600,000 naira. Similarly, in late March 2022, the All Progressives Grand Alliance (APGA) stated that the nomination and expression of interest forms would cost its presidential aspirants a total of 25 million naira, while that of the governorship would go for 15 million naira. For the Senate, House of Representatives, and the State House of Assembly, both forms would be sold for a total of 10 million naira, 7 million naira, and 2.5 million naira respectively. What is most concerning about these prices is not just that they are exorbitant, but that they have also increased in every election cycle. For instance, in the 2015 presidential election, which brought in President Muhammadu Buhari, the then newly formed APC sold its presidential nomination forms for 27 million naira. At the time, President Muhammadu Buhari expressed concerns about such an enormous amount, stating that it's a pity he couldn't influence the amount to be put down, but he felt heavily sorry for himself. 27 million naira is a big sum. Yet, in the subsequent 2019 presidential election, wherein he was the sole aspirant for the APC, the nomination and expression of interest forms were sold for a total of 45 million naira, a 66.7% increase in the price he purchased the forms in the previous elections. Such an upward mark in the cost of nomination forms every election cycle seems to be universal across parties.
Interest form at 100 million, 20 million and whatever is nothing to talk about. It's all nonsense, because you're sending somebody to serve and you are asking the person to buy just nomination form for 100 million naira. Then when that person gets into power, you are expecting such person to perform. That's madness. The person will not perform. I think what they are going there to now do will be to recover their money back. Simple. It's a simple ideology. You don't need to argue about it. You don't even need to question people about it. Just like, for example, now you are telling me you want to give me a job, and for you to give me that job, I should give you 100 million naira. Then you now give me job. I now enter the office. Forget. If I don't get that money, I will sell everything in that office to get that money back. It's normal. So we are always sending them in there now to recover their money back. So don't expect them to perform. The only performance that you should expect from them is what will give them their money back. Simple.
The issue before us vis-a-vis nomination forms by parties, that issue is a constitutional issue. It is not an emotional one. It is not a sentimental issue. The Constitution is clear in section 221, 1999 Constitution, that no group of persons can canvass for votes unless as a political party. And even if we look at the Electoral Act 2022, Part 5 under political parties, it is clear that it is only political parties that can convert for votes. Ipso facto, a political party is acting intra vires, acting within its power to sell nomination form at any amount. It will be sentimental to say such an amount is big, such an amount is small. Politics itself is an expensive venture. The candidate will have offices here and there, will campaign, put up flyers, convince people via his manifesto. So it is not dogmatic as an amount. The amount of buying form 5, 4, 6 years ago is not the same as at now. And from what you can see, we say volenti non fit injuria. He who volunteers cannot complain. Some people are crying that it is very costly. Was cause of Nigeria bought form, dozens bought forms. So where are we? And what are we talking about? So, and they are not complaining. They are campaigning, trying to sell their candidature to people. So let's remove the sentiments, let's remove the emotion, the constitutional issue, the political parties enfranchised by the constitution to supervise election, monitor it, sell form, etc., etc. So it will be narrow-minded to be fixated to think that an amount is very exorbitant. If it were to be exorbitant, why the 10, 20s, dozens of people go to buy the form? Now the first screening, some were disqualified. They are even doing primaries now, some be disqualified. And the money for the form is not refundable. It was made clear ab initio that the money is not refundable, and yes, people went to buy. So insofar as some are able to buy, we should let it be, because when they get there, those elected, they know what they will derive. They know their remuneration.
The implication of the exorbitant expression of interest form is enormous. One could say it's inexhaustible. Not only on the expression of interest, also on the general electioneering as a whole in Nigeria. You know, politics is quite expensive. So, but the implication ranges from the fact that it denies the ordinary Nigerians who are endowed with leadership skills, with competence to, you know, who would have, you know, bring back this country onto the path of greatness. They are now denied the opportunity to participate in our politicking, in our politics, and thereby leaving it in the hands of the money bags, who see politics as a means of amassing wealth, as an investment where they put in so much and risk so much. So that's one of the implications. Secondly, it also deprives the general populace the opportunity of enjoying the dividends of good leadership. Because if the politician sees haven't paid such huge amount of money for a start, for expression of interest, he sees it as a profit-making venture. When he comes to power, he will not blink an eye to wreak havoc on our treasury, on our economy, because he wants to recover what he has put in, not just 1-fold, but in 1,000-fold. So thirdly, I also feel that this huge outlandish fee for expression of interest equally promotes unhealthy rivalry in politics. Unhealthy rivalry. If you have spent such amounts like 100 million to express your interest, you will go at any length, at all costs, to make sure you clinch to power. That's why you see politicians go as much as taking lives, committing all manner of heinous criminalities to ensure that they come to power.
My expectations are that we have variations in the cost of the expression of interest forms for different political parties. Has to do with the interest of party members in obtaining these forms at various levels. You know, we have the presidency, of course, Senate, House of Rep, then come to the state level now for House of Assemblies. You see that some political parties have more followers than others. And some political parties are more, you know, how do I say it now? They have people of interest more than others. So, and they also have more populations, you know, than others. So, by virtue of people that are interested in obtaining these funds, definitely we influence the prices of these funds. You know we have the ruling party, as we speak, and of course, two major parties in this country, the PDP and of course the APC. And these two parties, I don't want to use that word, rival groups. So to actually seek for better candidates, I sincerely believe, hence the reason why the different political parties, these two political parties, has to fix their cost of expression of interest forms to suit better candidates to obtain them.
For example, the PDP increased the cost of its presidential nomination forms from 12 million naira in 2019 to 40 million naira for the 2023 elections, a significant 233% increase. Although the party claimed to have lowered the cost of the forms for the 2019 elections, perhaps to encourage more aspirants. Nevertheless, a comparison of the difference in prices between the 2015 and 2023 election cycle shows an 81% increase in the prices of the nomination forms. However, the cost of APGA's presidential nomination forms remained the same for the 2019 and the 2023 elections, although it witnessed a significant increase in prices of the governorship and senatorial positions. The manner with which political parties increase the cost of nomination forms with Siberic excitement reinforces political parties as rent-seeking enterprises with no regard for inclusive democratic participation. Virtually all the parties subscribe to the view that money, being the mother's milk of politics, should define leadership recruitment. Imposing high costs on nomination forms limits accessibility to political entrepreneurs with deep pockets and wide patronage networks, thereby shrinking the political space. When money shapes politics, it assaults the democratic right of citizens to contest for public office, especially where it determines who qualifies to participate in politics. As long as money, not competence, character, or popular appeal, operates as a fundamental variable in leadership recruitment of political parties, voters will refrain from voting because commercialized political processes are more likely to produce unpopular unaccountable and incompetent candidates. A highly monetized process hamstrings the political aspirants of youth and women and infringes on the spirit behind the not too young to run act.
The signal remains the same thing, in the sense that from the beginning of any era, it sends the same message that we should not expect anything as dividends of democracy. Nothing. We shouldn't expect anything, because that man or that woman who is bringing his or herself to serve has been drained off financially. So they don't even have money of their own. So what do you think they will sit down there to think about? They don't have time to think about the people. No, they don't. They are only thinking of how to recover their money back. So when we now put them in there with that same process, then we should expect that they will sit down there and think about themselves, and nobody should bother them at all on anything like dividends of democracy, or you want development. What kind of development? Nobody should expect. Me, I will not even expect anything from them. They will just be there, and their time will run out, and they will make the little they can make for themselves, and they will go. That's all. So economy will remain the way it is, going down, 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 until one day, then everybody will now sit down to start thinking, do we remain here and die together, or we'll make a further step to run away? Then we'll start running away, because I see it coming, that a time will come where everybody will decide to move, because it will no more be comfortable, it will no more guarantee safety of life to remain in this country if we continue the way we are going.
It is not supposed to be a matter of tit for tat, that when you pay such and such an amount to get it from, when you go there, you recoup. That's not what it's supposed to be. But as I said earlier, those who are volunteered to buy form, they know what they will get. And they are not complaining. You cannot cry more than the bereaved. So let it be. I'm very sure that those who went to buy the form know what they will derive. Maybe the name, maybe they want to serve because they want to offer service, that's the word. And if they get financial remuneration, it's okay. But they want to boost their curriculum vitae. So we should not always be thinking that those who want to serve are always wanting to serve because of the financial remuneration. They know exactly what they want. That is why 1, 2, 10, 20, 30, 40 people went to buy the form.
I also think that it promotes appointment of incompetent and unskilled politicians into a position of authority. You see, when many people express their interest with such huge amount of money, now sometimes they will have a consensus candidate, and when the consensus candidate comes on board and wins, it will definitely remember those that paid so much and had to withdraw. So the way to compensate them is to ensure that they are given appointments. You see, we have somebody who is not qualified, who is not skilled in that area, is just appointed to occupy such position. And in other words, it's like putting a round peg in a square hole, and it will be a mismatch, and that ultimately will amount to bringing suffering, penury, all manner of denial of infrastructural amenities, social amenities, all be far from the reach of the ordinary Nigerians. So it's inexhaustible. It's a long list to go. So that is the truth of the matter. So unless they cut down on this expression of interest, make it as minimal as possible, affordable, even if possible in tens of thousands, that everybody who has the capacity, the zeal, everybody who want to participate would show interest and come and participate, thereby making it competitive for each and every one of us to aspire to rule this country, so that we can leave our footprint on the sand of honor and integrity, not making it a business venture where anybody can come and invest. If you have money, come. If you don't have money, stay out of politics, and it spells doom for our country if it's not quickly tackled.
But talking about the economic part of it, well, this is Nigeria, we all know. One of the major reasons for those of us that did economics will know that if the cost, maybe party A, cost is not very high, you see that you have so many persons that will be interested in obtaining these forms. But because of the prices, we determine the number of persons that will be interested in obtaining the form. So I sincerely believe that the prices for these forms has to do with personalities that are interested in obtaining these forms based on their party level.
To a large extent, the justification advanced by political parties for the high cost of nomination forms is implausible. Political parties claim that the high monetary value placed on the nomination forms is a due diligence measure to distinguish pretenders from contenders. To the parties, it is a parameter for measuring interest, seriousness, and commitment to contest for office. In the absence of state funding of parties generate revenue from the sale of forms to fund party activities, and some parties argued the exorbitant cost of forms is attributed to inflation. The reliance on the high cost of nomination forms as a due diligence measure indict political parties for failing to invest in long-term leadership recruitment, development, retention, and transition. If parties maintain consistent, inclusive, and structured engagement with party members on policy, leadership, and governance, it will address the leadership recruitment question through strategic engagement opportunities. The leadership philosophy and values of political parties can be espoused and inculcated into party members ahead of the electioneering season. Prospective contenders can be identified, groomed, and empowered to contest for party nominations. It is counterproductive for political parties to wait for the Election Commission to ring the election bell before engaging in leadership recruitment. The true test of a party's commitment to decommercializing politics is its long-term leadership recruitment approach and strategy. Furthermore, the over-dependence on revenue from the sales of nomination forms to run party affairs exposes the poor health of political parties. Ideally, political parties fund candidates, but the reverse is the case in Nigeria, where candidates fund political parties. Political parties cannot generate revenue through membership dues, levies, and donations, hence the high cost. The removal of state funding for political parties in 2010 sanitized the political finance ecosystem. However, the introduction of private financing, such as membership dues and in-kind donations, has not been effectively explored by political parties for a plethora of reasons. Most parties failed to maintain an accurate, credible, and updated register of members, making it impracticable to mobilize membership dues and levies. In the past, parties were funded through membership dues and levies, but in contemporary Nigerian politics, the preference of party leadership is to generate quick money during party primaries. This condition serves the interests of godfathers and moneybags because it makes party leaders subservient and captives of entrenched interests or financiers of the party, leading to the political capture of the electoral process, weak internal control mechanism, and poor organizational culture in parties. Political parties have been indicted several times by the Electoral Commission for failure to maintain proper financial records, fixed assets register, and undertake periodic audits of accounts. Without a proper financial management system, political parties can't mobilize, manage, and retire private funding with a high degree of transparency, accountability, and compliance with political finance regulations. The current funding model of political financing creates unfair competition and shrinks the political space to the detriment of competent leaders, youth and women. Political finance reform is an urgent necessity to ensure the political space is accessible to all persons regardless of age, economic class, tribe and creed. Any meaningful reform of party funding or campaign funding should deliver the following 4 key outcomes. First, limit the influx of unregulated money in the political process. Secondly, enhance the capacity of political parties on resource mobilization and maintenance of proper accounts of financial transactions and assets register. Thirdly, strengthen INEC's capacity to monitor and ensure compliance with political finance regulations. And fourth, explore new pathways of candidate selection that de-emphasizes the place of money and economic power over competence, capacity, and character. The net effect of these outcomes will be improved safeguards for the political space, party supremacy, and candidate recruitment. Caroline Okonji reporting.